Hey YouTube, how's it going? It's Quentin here and welcome to tutorial number 13. And in this tutorial, I'm going to talk to you guys about external style sheets. But before we move on to external style sheets, I just want to do a quick catch up with you on the previous tutorial. So in the previous tutorial, I told you guys that there were 3 different ways to add CSS to your website. The first way I showed you guys was an inline style attribute or an inline style rule. That's what this is called. And this is when you add a style attribute to your tag and then you select whatever property you want to change about your element. So in this case, we wanted to change the color. So the thing you want to change is called a property. And then I set that equal to blue, which is the value. So property and value, those are 2 technical terms that you should always keep in mind. Then we also changed the font family, which was a property, and we set that equal to Helvetica, which was a value. Right, so that then changed our paragraph to blue. So let me just zoom in so you guys can see all clearly. But that changed the value of, or the properties of this first paragraph to be Helvetica and for the color to be blue, right? Then I also showed you guys an style tags, which we put in the head of our document. Now you could actually put these style tags anywhere on your page, although it is generally accepted that if you're going to be using style tags, we're going to put them up in the head of the document. And then the advantage of using style tags over inline styling is that you can style more than one element at a time. So over here, you know, if I wanted to style both my paragraphs, I'd have to copy and paste the style rule and I'd have to place that in here. And if I had another paragraph, I'd have to copy and paste that onto the next paragraph. Whereas if I wanted to be able to style all paragraphs on my website with one styling rule, I could do that by just adding style tags up at the top of the page. And then I select all paragraphs with a selector. So that's what this thing is called. And you know, if I wanted to select my body, then I could go up here and use a selector for the body. But in this case, we wanted to style all paragraphs. So we're using the paragraph selector. And from there, we open up some curly braces and we place properties and values. And that is how we style all elements on one page. But if we want to style more than one page at a time, let's say I've got 10 pages on my website, I'd then have to copy and paste this code across 10 pages, which, you know, isn't very efficient, especially now if you want to change some styling. Now you've got to copy paste this code across 10 different pages every time you make a change. So we have something else called a style sheet or an external style sheet, which is when you add another file called a CSS file to your what's the word? Directory, right? So right now I've got my htdocs directory and I only have an index.html file, but I want to make a CSS file over here. So I'm going to, on Windows, you could probably right click and say new file. I don't have that here. So I'm going to use Sublime. I'm going to say file, save, or actually I don't want to say save. I want to say file, new file. Thinking about something else entirely. Okay, so now we've got an untitled file over here and I'm going to say file, save as, and then I'm going to set to name my file. So you could name it absolutely anything you wanted, but I'm going to name mine main.css. Now the .css part is important because that's going to tell the computer that this is a CSS file. If this isn't a CSS file, it's not going to work. So let's hit save. And now we have a blank CSS file over here. And we need to link to it in this document. So I'm going to remove our internal style tags and I'm going to replace that with a link. So I'm going to type link as a tag and you can see it's already auto completed some fields for me. So rel is an attribute that tells the browser that this is a style sheet. Now this is very important because if you do not have this tag here, your styles sheet is not going to work. It's not going to style your elements when you get around to styling, right? So this is very, very important. Type tells the browser that this is a CSS file, but honestly, if you didn't have this here, it would work. It's just that by standards, you should always declare the type. So that's why that is there, right? And then href is, it works the same way as a links href works. We need to tell the browser where to look for our CSS file. So our CSS file, if I go over to my htdocs folder over here, my index file and my CSS file are in the exact same location, which means that all I need to do is type the file name, which is main.css. Had I, tried to be a little bit tidy and created a folder called CSS and then put all my CSS inside a folder, which is technically what we do in the real world. We usually have a folder called CSS, and then we usually take that CSS and place it in the folder. Then we'd usually have to, declare the folder, which is CSS. And that / means that this is a CSS folder, and then main CSS. So let's save this now, and this should still work. So if I start styling or typing some styling in the CSS, we should see that affect our page. And right now, seeing as I've removed the style tag up here, if I refresh this page, we lose the styling, right? Because we don't have that style rule anymore that says, hey, turn all paragraphs red. So let's add that back in, but I'm going to add it in our external style sheet. So I'm going to grab the selector, which is our paragraph, and then I'm going to open up curly braces, and then I'm going to type color, that is our property, and I'm going to set a value for this, and let's set that equal to, now let's use red because yellow is not going to be visible. So let me save this, come back here and hit refresh, and you can see something is not working. Have I saved this? Let's see. Refresh. Okay, that is still working. CSS, main CSS. Did I main.css? Main.css. It's in a folder called CSS. Is it? Oh, that's confusing. Replace. Okay, so what happened here was I'm saving this. Every time I hit save, do you see it added the CSS file back here? So let me just close this, and I'm going to delete that one because that's confusing us, and let's grab the one that's actually in the folder. Oh, that wasn't supposed to be deleted. Grab the one that's actually in the folder and place it over here. So that was my bad. I confused Sublime over there, but let's come back here and hit refresh. And now I have my styling rule affecting the text on my website. So we changed this paragraph to blue, and we might as well just change the font family as well to Helvetica. Ah man, I spelled it wrong, didn't I? Oops. Helvetica. Copy that, paste it in here, save, come back to the browser, hit refresh, and now it is Helvetica. So that is how you use an external style sheet. And like I said, the advantage for that is that now, let's say you have 10 different web pages on your website. All you need to do is copy and paste this link across all the different pages, and then you only need to type all your styling in your main CSS file once, and it updates across all 10 pages. So work smarter, not harder, and I'll see you guys in the next video. I just want to send a shout out to my sponsors at Dev Mountain. They run a coding bootcamp with courses on iOS development, UX design, and web development. and they can teach you everything you need to know to get a job within this field, and they'll do it within 12 weeks, which I think is a rather impressive timeline. So go ahead and check out their website. The link is in the video description, and if you do contact them, make sure to tell them that I sent you. Hey, thanks for staying until the end of the video. That really means a lot to me. Now, while you're still here, there are a few things that you can do to help. First of all, if you haven't already, subscribe and watch another one of my videos. And if you want to help me make more content more often, or if you feel that my content is just worth paying a little bit of money towards, you can check me out on Patreon. You can also check me out on social media. I will leave the links next to me. So go ahead and click on something, and I'll see you guys next time.